Welcome to the Disruptive podcast by Minority Innovation Weekend. Minority Innovation Weekend is a weekend summit dedicated to aiding innovators of color launch tech-focused startups, exploring emerging technologies and showcasing tech startups that have a founder or co-founder of color. During each episode, we will discuss innovation, tech startups, and more. Minority Innovation Weekend. One weekend, endless opportunities. Please visit www.minorityinnovationweekend.org to find out how to connect with us and to register for upcoming events.
Welcome to the MIW Disruptive podcast, hosted by Jailer, Sowalter, and Jerome. Today, of course, we got a special guest. She's a sales selection strategist who has built her career on helping companies optimize their sales department by finding the right talent the first time. She's the Chief Executive Officer at Improve Growth and also founder at All Womankind. I am talking about Brisa Renteria. Hopefully I didn't butcher that.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, all right, good.
Perfect. I'm just so energized by the way that you introduced me, DJ. I'm not sure anybody has ever introduced me that way, so I'm honored. Thank you.
He does a great job. He gets it rolling.
He does.
So let's just dive right into it. You're Chief Executive Officer at Improve Growth. Let's talk about how you got into this role that you're in now. What led up to this?
Yeah. So I built my career in the sales consulting and training space. I worked for the largest sales training organization in the world. I got a chance to train over 5,000 salespeople, maybe about 2,500 sales leaders, CEOs of those companies, small, medium, large size companies. And I enjoyed it. I loved every single minute of it. I got to build a network. I got to learn how to sell. I got to understand and really learn how do you better communicate with CEOs and what do they care about, because that was strictly who we worked with. I got a chance to help a lot of salespeople get better at their messaging, at their sales process, help them make a lot of money, help them get their head right when it comes to sales, because that's one of the biggest challenges that people have when it comes to sales is if your mind isn't right, nothing else is going to be right. And if your mind isn't right when you're going into a sales call, then your delivery of the process that you're trained to or the skills that we're teaching you about, it's not going to be as effective because you may have something going on internally that's going to stop you from being effective, right? So I was blessed to go and work with companies like that in their sales teams. And the most frustrating part about the sales training industry is that a lot of times you're training the wrong people, right? Most of the times you're training the wrong people. And the corporate company comes to you and they say, hey, Brisa, can you train our sales team? And it's a large corporate company and it's a great deal and it's a great company to have in your portfolio. But the frustrating part is you're sitting there and you're training 20, 30 salespeople. And out of those 20 or 30, only 2 of them are going to get better, right? And it's frustrating because you're standing in front of a crowd and you're teaching a process and you're teaching sales techniques, and in the back of your head that 90% of them are not going to take anything of what you're teaching, right? So that's just the frustrating part about training overall, right? Not just sales training. So my purpose in starting Improve Growth is we help companies find strong performing salespeople that are going to follow our process, that are going to follow those techniques. Because what we found was a lot of these businesses that were doing training, that were doing such a great job at creating processes and metrics and giving people the recipe for success, but just flat out, they just didn't have the right salespeople in place, right? And I know that, it's an engine, right? Having a sales team is an engine. You have to have the right people, you have to have the right training, you have to have the right processes, you have to have the right sales leadership. And what most companies they had all of those things except the right people, right? Because they think that hiring salespeople is just like hiring anybody else at the company. And that's so not true, right? Hiring for a salesperson is completely different than hiring for a marketing specialist, an operations person, Because salespeople are amazing at selling themselves, right? But doesn't necessarily mean that they can sell your stuff. So what we do is we help those companies find that missing piece, right? Is how do they go about finding those people? So we are a training company first, to where we go into companies and we teach them a process that they can follow that's going to help them find strong performing salespeople. However, there are times in which companies say, I don't have the time or the resources to do this, or I don't feel like I can effectively execute on that process. Can you do it for us? And we can do that as well. The other thing that we're finding ourselves in right now, which is a great problem, is our clients that have gotten to know our process when hiring for salespeople, they now want us to follow that same process and helping them find other people in the organization, right? So our process when finding salespeople is very hands-on for the candidate, right? We're not chasing someone, we're not begging someone. There's assignments, there's steps, there's things that they have to do. And if they don't do any of them, then we don't move forward. And clients really like that because they found that it really increases the quality of the person that we go out and find. So we're also helping with other roles as well. So long-winded answer to a small question, right? But that's just gonna take you full circle of everything that we've done and where we come from.
Yeah, but that was great though. So with you started Improve Growth all by yourself, is that correct? Like how did you go out into, you were like, I'm just going to start this up. I know I can do it. Or what were the, the things that were going on in your mind when you started this?
Yeah. So I had a baby in 2020, right?
Mhm.
June 2020. She was born, June 2020. And we're right in the middle of the pandemic. And my husband, he was working in a large financial company, and they were laying people off left and right.
Mhm.
And we just had a newborn. They were laying people off in my husband's company. The company I was working at the time, they didn't take COVID seriously, right? They told people to work from home the first 2 weeks of the shutdown, and then after the shutdown, they were like, nope, everybody's gonna go back into the office, and they've been working in the office ever since. So I knew that wasn't gonna be they're nuts. I knew that it wasn't gonna be something that I could do, right? With a newborn at home, and we already had daycare set up for her, but then we didn't take her to daycare because of COVID, and they were laying people off. It was just crazy, right? So I figured, what better time to start a business than while the economy's down the drain and while nobody's buying than now, right? I knew that I had to have a backup plan in case my husband did get laid off. I knew that I had to have a backup plan in case things just went completely wrong. I had to be doing something. So that's the time that I started Improve Growth. I always knew I was going to start my own thing. It was just a matter of time. And I figured there's no better time than now, right? Because when things are so low, they have nowhere to go but up, right?
Yeah.
And I have found that to be true. The year sucked last year, and sales kind of sucked last year. We did get our first couple clients last year, our first 6 months in, but they're better this year than they were last year. So
I feel like there's a lot of people that started businesses during COVID. Like you're at home, working from home, and you're like, okay, I need a backup plan or something else that I can do. So
yeah, a ton. I think I was reading this article from the Dallas Business Journal, and I think it was something like 60 businesses were started since COVID happened, which it totally makes sense, right? Parents need the flexibility of working from home or working for a company that gives them the flexibility of, if there's no daycare, if there's no childcare, I can still take care of my child and work, or whatever it may be. And nobody's going to give you that flexibility except yourself, right? So it totally makes sense.
Brisa, for Improve Growth, how did you come up with the name?
So I was born in Mexico City, came here when I was 12. So I used to be able to say half my life there, half my life here, but now I've spent more than half my life here. Now that I think about it, I think it's not grammatically correct, Improve Growth, right? So it totally makes sense for me because my grammar is like way off because English is not my first language, but that's just a little side note about it being not grammatically correct. But I honestly, what we do is we help companies grow their sales, grow their business you can't grow unless you have sales, right? Nothing. You have got to have sales or you have nothing, right? And most businesses, they focus so much on build it and they will come. No, you got to go out there and chase after it, right? So we really help companies improve their growth by having the right people, and because having the right people is really what's going to help them increase their sales. I was talking to a guy on Tuesday. They're a data recovery company, and they're doing all the right things. They have training, they have process, they have systems, they have great managers. But the piece that they've always missed is the salespeople part, which is why sales are the way that they are, which is why they're talking to me, right? It's the fact that we have everything we need. We just have that missing piece. And that missing piece really makes such a huge difference. So I truly believe that with the right people, companies do get the chance to improve their growth and get to where they want to go.
So in
And, you know,
terms, oh, sorry, you want to go, Jayla?
no, go ahead.
All right. So I know earlier you said that an applicant has to go through sales training through your organization, but you also said that you assign assignments to them. So what type of assignments do you assign to them?
Yeah, good question. So our process is I believe that if someone wants to come work for you, they're going to work hard for coming to work for you, right? So our recruiting process is set up in a way that once we find a resume that's a good fit, we have the candidate be the one that selects a time for an interview, right? And they go into the link, they go to my Calendly, they set up a time, and then I have them call me. And when I have them call me, what that does is two things. Number one, that verifies, can this person look on a calendar invite and see whether or not they should be calling me? Because most of them make the assumption that I'm going to call them, right? No, I'm testing to see, can you go? First off, do you know that we have an interview? Because sometimes people are like, wow, we had an interview? What? I totally forgot. And then you have to overcome that, right? And I'm not selling them anything, right? They're applying for a job that's going to pay them. So I strongly believe in putting the ball on the candidate's court. So first thing is go on the link. Can you select the time? If you select the time, can you look at the invite and know that you have to call me? And when they call me, I'm checking for promptness. And it's a quick interview. It's 10, 15 minutes. Tell me about yourself. What did you like about the role? What do you think about the industry? And if they can't answer those questions right away, or at least take the time to look at the job description in the industry, and then you've just told me you're not the right fit, right? Because you didn't even take the time to look at the job ad, look at the industry, to even know what we're even talking about, right? So that's our first screener is we have got to know, can this person look at a calendar invite? Is this person prompt? And can this person answer 3 questions in a matter of 15 minutes very effectively to where they can move on to the next round? And then the next round, they get an assignment. It's like taking an assessment. Sometimes it's an assignment related to the role. Like, for example, right now we're hiring for a student success advisor role, and they're going to be doing resumes. So their assignment is, here's a butchered resume. Can you fix it based on the scenario I pinned to you? And there's deadlines, there's criteria that we're looking for. And that has really helped us filter out through the people that really want this, that are really willing to go through the process to get this job, and the people that don't. And that just increases the quality of the candidate for sure.
And a lot of people that are listening to this, they're trying to start their own startups and those kind of things. So how can those people that are in those early foundations of those startups use something like what you're providing when they're just starting out? How important is that for them?
Yeah, so the biggest advice that I would give to them, and I speak from, is I'm at that spot too, right? I've been in business for 1 year. We just onboarded a couple of new employees, and it's a challenge, right? And it's a challenge because you're betting on someone being good and actually delivering for you and helping your life be better. And there's a lot of documents and processes that go in the background. So my biggest advice that I can always give people is be selective about who you bring on board. Determine what's it going to take for someone to be successful in your world, right? And then from then on, be extremely selective about how you select. Because if you're just going out and you're just hiring the first person off the street, or maybe the first person that you liked and you thought that this person was going to be amazing for whatever role you're selecting them for, I guarantee you 99% of the time it's going to fail, right? So you have got to be extremely selective about what you do. And that's what we do at Improve Growth, right? Is we teach companies to be selective, right? Whether it's going through our training program, whether it's us doing the recruiting for them, we're always teaching our clients to be selective. And, right now the market is a candidate's market right now. A candidate can basically walk into a job and get paid $10,000 worth more than they were paying last year because just the way that the market is right now, right? My clients, I'm teaching them that we're not going to do that, right? Yes, it's a candidate's market, but I can also tell you that the people that want to come and work for you, they're going to go through the process, right? And the process I kind of told y'all a little bit about, but I am not teaching my clients that, well, let's charge 10,000, well, let's pay $10,000 more just so we can get that candidate. No, it's a two-way street, right? And we got to better understand why this candidate wants this job. So if I could just say it in one word, is you have got to be selective about who you bring on board. And that's exactly what we teach our companies.
Definitely. I like that. And go ahead. You guys want to.
Oh, sure. So are there specific industries that you recruit sales people for?
All industries except for retail. We have a client in the cybersecurity space. We have a client in the data space, M&A. We tend to make the most impact in companies are in the technology space, professional services, so like accountants, architecture, and that's really because they don't see themselves as salespeople, but they are. Those people are really great. And then manufacturing is huge too. So all industries except for retail, but those would be our top three that we typically work with.
Can you talk a little bit about working with some of those tech companies that you worked with? Just some of the advice or tools that you're giving them to get better.
Yeah. So the challenge that most technologies companies have when hiring salespeople is they think that an effective salesperson is someone that is very industry savvy, or someone that says the right things, or is very knowledgeable in technology, right? Someone that has graduated from there. They know the ins and outs of technology. They've built something. That's what they're built a career on, right? And now you have someone that's a subject matter expert going out there and selling to people. Well, what tends to happen in the technology space is you have someone that's really great at technology, not too great with people. And you have someone that's in the technology space who's great at technology, but now he's going out and talking to the CEO of a company who tend to be quick, short, and to the point. And this person has been trained to be detailed and processed and give you the backstory to something and give you all these buzzwords that only he understands, right? And now he's talking to someone that doesn't even care about that stuff, right? So the biggest challenge that technologies companies have is finding someone that has a great balance. What we actually tell our technology clients is get you a good salesperson, right? Someone that can just go in there, talk to people. If he or she has to go out and talk to a CEO, they're able to have the strategic big picture conversation with someone and really understand why this person's even talking to y'all. You can always teach the technology things that they should be talking about. Now, they're not going to sit there and build a computer or build some type of system, right? But the point is just to have a conversation. And what we typically find is people who have been so ingrained in technology, they have a hard time just having those conversations, right? So we always advocate, go out, find a salesperson first that you can teach a little bit of technology to. And then once they close the deal, then they can go talk to the subject matter expert, right? But their goal is go out and find a salesperson, and then you can talk about the technology component.
So like a technologist, somebody who's very ingrained in technology, you feel that, is there a way to show them, like have them pull back some of the buzzwords and some of the technical aspects so that they're more accessible to clients?
Yeah, yeah. And that's actually one of the things that we used to do in the sales training industry I used to work at. That was one of the things, right? Is
Mhm.
you're so great at technology, but you're just too good to the point that you're turning people off because people can't really have a conversation with you about it, right? Or you're going in and you're having a conversation with the CEO and you're using all these buzzwords and the CEO really doesn't know what any of those things mean except for you, right? So that's, yeah, there's a lot of training, there's a lot of coaching that's associated with that, and you can definitely fix it. Now there's a couple of components that we look at when training salespeople, or that we would look at when training salespeople, is how coachable is this person? And that's because we trained a lot of people that were just going to training, but they weren't going to do anything differently. Chances are they weren't very trainable and they weren't very coachable, right? So you got to look at that stuff too. Some people would say, hey, yes, I know that I'm very technical. I know that I'm always using buzzwords and I turn people off and I want to get better. Those people were extremely trainable and extremely coachable. And then there were also people that said, yep, well, I've been successful so far, so what, right? And those people tended to not do as well in sales training. So you got to be looking to see how trainable and how coachable the people that you have are.
Are there certain questions you would ask someone to find out if they're teachable or open to learning?
Yeah, good question. So we actually would use an assessment tool that would tell us whether or not somebody was trainable and coachable. And the assessment tool, while you're going through the assessment, it would ask you questions like, do you think there's any room for improvement? And we knew they weren't coachable if they said, no, I'm perfect. Or another question might be like, tell me about last time you had a sales call that didn't go well. All my sales calls go well, right? So you get to hear a little bit in the conversation how they think. So if you have someone that's like, there's no room for improvement, I'm doing everything right, there's nothing else I could have done differently or better on whatever call I had, I've already done all the training, I already know everything, then those people tend to be not trainable, not coachable. But if I have someone that's like, hey, yes, I know that I've been doing this for a while and I'm having conversations, but they're not necessarily going where I want them to go, what do you think? What should I be doing? If I get someone that's like, hey, can you give me feedback, or what else do you think I should be doing? And they're open to it, then they're extremely trainable and coachable. And those are honestly the funnest people you can possibly work with. There is nothing more frustrating than trying to coach someone or train someone that doesn't want to be there. They're hostages, right? They're just there. So they're a hostage. I'm a hostage because I have to stand here teaching you something that you don't even want to learn. But it's just so much more fun when you have those people that say, I don't know, can you help me? Because 99% of the time you would say, hey, do this. And 99% of the time they would go out and do it and actually get success from it. So yeah, good question.
And when you go into these companies and you realize that some of the salespeople that they already have, or the people that are working for them, aren't really there for the right reasons, or they're not trainable, how do you weed those people out? How do you get rid of them and replace them?
So that tends to be a sales manager's job. Our job was more as a consultant. I would go in and say, hey, Jayla, well, after our conversation, it looks like you have, out of 10 people, it looks like you might have 5 people that are worth you keeping. The other 5, you really got to look for that. And then it was a sales manager's job to decide, should we keep these people, right? There's times in which we work with businesses that there was the person that wasn't trainable or coachable was their top performing salesperson, right? Which made sense, right? There's a lot of ego in the top performing salesperson. So there's a hard time adjusting to that. So it's really looking at the situation from a base to base, on a case to case basis, and drawing from that, because we couldn't just say these people suck, these people don't, so get rid of these people. Because sometimes the people that weren't trainable and coachable were the people that are bringing in the most business, right? So it was really a matter of what does the company want? Do you want a team of people that are trainable or coachable, or do you want a team of people that go out there and kill it and you don't really have to do much for them, right? So it was just trying to find that balance, but it was 100% the sales manager's jobs to the people that weren't trainable or coachable. If they weren't performing, then it was decision time. right? If you're not performing and you're not trainable and you're not coachable, then it's a matter of making a decision. But if you're not trainable and you're not coaching it, but you're killing it, then we'll keep you, right? So there was a lot of that too.
How long do you stay involved with the companies when you start this process? Is it, how long does it take to, see improvements?
Yeah. So, our component is just the salespeople side, right? I actually partner with someone that works on the sales process and the sales training piece. And I don't work with companies unless they have sales processes and sales training in place. And that's because I could go out and I can help you find a top performing salesperson. But if you don't have those things in place, that person's not going to work out. And you're going to come to me and say, hey, you got me the wrong person. And when it wasn't the wrong person, it's the fact that you don't have processes or systems in place, right? So we only work with companies that have those sales processes, they have metrics, they have the right management in place, they have the right training in place. Because we know that with those processes and systems and trainings, they're going to be successful. The other component to what we do is we just don't place someone just to place them, right? I take it very seriously that a candidate is trusting us as the recruiting company and helping them find a great company. And I hate the fact that so many recruiting companies have sat there and just lied to candidates about the opportunity. They've sat there and really lied about, do they have benefits? Do they not have benefits? What's the opportunity look like? What is my role even going to be, right? How many times have you showed up in a business and you feel like you're going to be doing this, but then they come in and they tell you you're going to be doing something completely different? That's happened to me, and I know how much it sucks. And I don't want that to happen to the people that I place, right? So our motto is we have got to be transparent, which means that our clients have to be transparent. And if we go out and we're hiring for a company that doesn't necessarily have everything in place, but they're getting there, that's the expectation that we set for our companies, right? So I think that a lot of companies just kind of forget the human element of the candidate side. Yeah, they're candidates, and yes, you want to put people in front of them, but this is people's livelihoods. Like, this is how they make a living. This is what they do more. You spend more time at work than you do at home. Why not help them find the right fit? Because if they're not the right fit, they're going to be looking again, and you're going to have to be looking again. So I truly believe in making it a win-win for everyone. Because I've been at that spot, not being in a place that's not really a good place, and then you have to start over and you got to interview, and we all know how much that sucks, right? So that's what we believe in.
Which leads to a great transition to All Womankind.
Yeah.
Of course, you're the founder of All Womankind. So what prompted you to start that? And please tell us about that organization as well.
Yeah, so that's more so my passion project. So in my career and in my business, I've gotten to interview a ton of men, a ton of women, different levels of experience, different ages, different backgrounds. The recruiting side has always been my favorite, as you can tell, which is why I went out and I started a business that focused on the people side. But the frustrating part for me as a woman is the fact that when there was a huge difference between interviewing a guy and interviewing a woman. A guy was always on point, right? He would know what the company is, what the role is, the industry. He knew how to speak eloquently. He knew how to speak like concisely. He knew how to close me. He knew how to sell me. He knew how to start the conversation. He knew how to build rapport quickly on the phone. He knew how to do that in person. The women tend to struggle the most, right? I would say that out of 10 women that I would interview, 1 to 2 were good. And that just like irks me, right? Because, and I'm gonna get real personal with y'all, nobody is more strong working than a woman, period, right?
Agreed.
And then a woman with kids, oh, she's unstoppable, right?
Superwoman.
But yeah, but at the same time, as a society, we've taught women to be in the back burner, right? We've taught women that you don't be bitchy, don't be straightforward, don't ask too many questions, don't talk too much. Watch how you dress yourself, watch how you do your hair, watch what you say, what you don't say. Men aren't trained or raised like that, right? They're raised to go out there and like provide. So you can clearly see the differences when you're talking to a guy to where you're talking to a woman, and it shows in the interview. They're less assertive. They don't ask a ton of questions. A lot of times they're not prepared. They don't know what to ask. And then when you do research online on, if you do research online and you say women interviewing, guess what shows up the most?
What's that?
Jayla, you probably know this.
Uh-oh, what is it?
What you should wear.
Oh,
Y'all, it's real. I was like, and I searched it in different ways. Women interviewing for this role, women interviewing in the US, women interviewing just period.
Yeah, what you have on can make or break the interview. They'll like immediately be like, no or yes.
And
or if your hair is
that,
not a certain way,
yeah.
or if you got too much makeup on, like it's all
If
plays.
your hair's not done right, if your dress is too tight, if your shirt is too low, if your coat is too tight, if your nails aren't done, if your makeup's too much. If you search women interviewing, like, or women interviewing tips, they are all about what you should be wearing.
Wow.
It's not anything about these are the questions you should ask. This is how you should present yourself. When they ask you, tell me about yourself, this is how you better respond. This is how you build rapport with the interviewer. None of that. It's all about what you should wear.
What has happened when you put in men? I wonder. I never searched men. What comes up for you guys?
Yeah, no. So I did look that up, and all it would have was the things that I just mentioned: is what questions to ask, how to build rapport with them, what makes some great questions to ask an interviewer, the top 10 questions you should be answering. With us, what should we be wearing?
Yeah,
right?
So it actually prepares them for the interview, but just leaves us, out there.
Yeah. So what does that tell you? Like, we're just there to look good, right? We just got to show up, and like our dress has to be good, and like our makeup has to be perfect, and that's how you get the job. When in reality, we want to know, like, how do I go out there and kill it, right? How do I go out there and like position myself differently than anybody else? There's nothing of that for women. So that's how all womankind was born, right? Is I figured this is all types of sideways. This is stupid. I can't believe that if I search for this, all I'm gonna get is what should I be wearing? So that's how it was born, right? And we really talk about number one, why should it be you? It is proven that if more women work at companies, the companies tend to be less stressed, more productive, more flexible, and there's plenty of opportunities for growth for everyone being women, people of color, older people. Women who are at companies, they tend to change the culture of the business for everyone, not just for themselves. What we found is for companies that have more women than men in their business, they're more so just focused about what's beneficial to the man, right? So it's proven that by having more women go into businesses benefit from that, right? And the culture of the business changes. So the first thing we teach is why should it be you, right? The second thing we teach is how do you better prepare for it? And it's not just should you look good, right? It's what questions you need to be asking, what type of research you should be asking, how do you better build rapport, what questions to ask, what not to ask, how to close, how to follow up. And we found that the women that have gone through our training, they've been very successful at it. And ask anybody else, just any woman in your life, ask them what's it like interviewing for you, and they'll tell you it's rough, right? Because we're taught to constantly be on, right? We're taught to constantly watch what you say, how you say it, how you're dressed, how you sit, how you stand, how you everything, right? And then on top of that, if you're a minority and or if you're young, then you got to watch yourself 2, 3, 4 times more, right? So that's really more my passion project, because it's crazy out there, y'all. So my goal with all womankind is to go out there and fix that issue, because it's a big issue.
How are you doing that? So what are the steps that you're doing to influence women to get in contact with women that need this help? Like, how are you reaching these people?
Yeah, a lot of it is through universities. So you have these women that they've gone to school. That's the other issue too. Have all these women that have gone to school, they've gotten a great education, but then they get out, they don't know how to properly position themselves. So a lot of it is working with universities. A lot of it is also working with other women's groups. A lot of it too is working with women in women's shelters. One of our old past speaking engagements that we did was for a battered women's type nonprofit. These tend to be the people that need the most help, right? People at universities, people that have gone through a rough patch, and just other women groups is typically how we partner up with people. We have a social media platform that we also reach out to people, but it's mostly been universities and other women's groups.
And you mentioned school when you talked about that. I know I was reading and it was saying you was a first generation college student. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Can you just talk a little about that? I know that's something to be very proud of in your family and all that good stuff.
Yeah, thank you. So I had no plans of going to school. I was gonna be military, and that's what it was gonna be. And my mind was made up. And everybody that asked me in high school, what are you gonna do when you leave? I was like, I want to be military, and that's it. Well, I ended up not being military, right? My mom is a single mom. We're in the US. We're the only ones in the US, just my sister, my mom, and I. All our family's still in Mexico. And, when it came down to decision time, she was like, no, don't go, because it's just the three of us. And what if something happens to you and it's still just the three of us? And I'm like, yeah, okay, you're right. So then I end up going back to school because my mom wasn't going to put up with me not going to school, right? And we came here for better opportunities and a better life, so I got to go out there and deliver on it, right? So I was the first person to graduate college from UT Arlington in 2014. And it's just such a proud moment being there at the time, because it's coming, but when it's there, it's just so surreal to know that you've accomplished it. I was the epitome of a broke kid in college. I worked full time, went to school full time. I literally worked from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. I would drive 45 minutes to get to my apartment, let my dog out to go to the restroom, feed him, and then I would be in class from 6 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. every day.
Oh,
And it was a beating, but it really does train you about life. And I'm just so blessed to be in this situation of being able to go to school, being able to build a business, being able to live the life that we do, because I know that there's people out there that can't. There's my family members that can't do it, right? So I have to do it for them, and I have to do it for the next generation. And my daughter is 14 months now, and she's watching everything that I do, even at a young age. So we got to do it for us and the next generation for sure.
definitely. Oh, go ahead, Rome.
Yeah, so I know we asked you a lot of different questions. I'm just wondering, is there anything you want to share to our audience in terms of your experience being a CEO or anything else? Like, what else would you like to share? Like a question that we didn't ask that you would like to ask, but you just want to share?
Yeah, I would just say hang in there. I know the late nights and the early mornings kick your butt. I know I'm there. But you have got to stand the test of time, right? You got to keep going out there, getting yourself out there, and you're going to hear a bunch of no's before you can get a yes. But every call, every meeting earns compound interest, right? So keep going, stand the test of time, go out there, and you got to be open for opportunities. One of my clients, he's in the cybersecurity space, and he sells to military. He didn't start his business selling to the military, right? He started his business selling to schools. And he sold to schools, but he's just had such a tremendous success with the military. And when you talk to him, he's like, I never planned any of this, right? I went in there with a plan, and then the opportunity came and I took the opportunity. So I think the other thing too is sometimes we're just so focused on this is what I have to go chase. This is what I have to go chase, that there's other opportunities saying, no, maybe let's go this way. You got to be open for those opportunities too that come on your door, that it's not something you were expecting at all, right? So if I can tell you for our business, I was so set on not being a recruiting company. because we know the connotation that recruiting companies have, right? There's so many of them out there. They suck. They just put people in front of people just to put them there. But it's all about how you conduct yourself, right? How you conduct yourself as a business, what impact do you make as a business, what kind of relationships do you build with your clients, and what kind of results do you bring with your clients. Nobody's going to be you, right? So you got to go out there and just keep doing it, because that's what's going to pay off.
And is there, I know that was some good advice for anyone that's interested in, you know, getting to the place that you are, but are there any good resources that you use that others can look into? Any other podcasts or journals or books or things that you know, read on a daily basis that people could look into as well?
Yeah, good question. So I used to be a big reader, but now I don't have time to read. So now I listen to audiobooks. And the best books I could tell you that I've read so far is Never Split the Difference. It's a book about negotiation. Love it. So it talks about negotiation, right? And negotiations is a part of sales, but it talks much more about the psychology of a person, which that's really what sales is, right? It's understanding the psychology of the person. So Never Split the Difference is an awesome book. I'm almost done with it, but I'm in love with it. The other book that I like is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. I love that book. And if you listen to it on audiobook, it's awesome. Y'all just have to listen to it. I love that book. And then there's a bunch of F-bombs. If you didn't figure out, there's a bunch of F-bombs. And then the other book that's one of my favorite books is The E-Myth. So for any business owner that's out there that's trying to build a business, the E-Myth, it's like your Bible, right? It's the one thing that tells you having the right processes, having the right people, having the right metrics. How do you get yourself out of a business? How do you get yourself out of being self-employed and actually running a business? That's what the E-Myth talks about. So those are my top 3 favorite books. And then I would say just subscribe to your local business journal. I'm in Dallas, so I'm subscribed to the Dallas Business Journal. It's amazing the amount of information that you can get every day on stuff that's happening in your area. What company's being acquired, what company just moved into your city, what company is growing, what industry needs help. We've actually gotten a couple of deals from there too. So it's just such a great resource.
Hey, Brisa, thank you for being a guest on our podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Are you active on social media, and how can people reach out to find out more about All Womankind or Improve Growth?
Yeah, so they can connect with me on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/in/Brisa Renteria. So you can connect with me there. The company also has a social media link. I don't know that one by memory. But we're definitely on LinkedIn too. And I'm on Instagram, so just search for my name.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed talking with you. Your story was awesome. And I know it's going to resonate with some other people and help them get to where they want to be.
Thanks, y'all. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for being part of it.
Thanks.
Appreciate y'all. Thanks.
That wraps up this episode of the Disruptive Podcast by Minority Innovation Weekend. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe. Check us out online at www.minorityinnovationweekend.org and connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn.